Hey, good morning. Patricia Murphy here. It's Saturday. This is Seattle Now. Today we're bringing you the best from the KUOW Newsroom. First, a story about our lawmakers. Washington's legislature works just a few months a year, which means most of them have day jobs on the side. State government reporter Sarah Mises-Tan went to a forest in Centralia to find out why the state operates this way and if it's time for a change.
It's a rainy day shortly after the legislative session has wrapped, and Representative Ed Orcutt is taking me deep into a grove of Douglas firs.
We're on an old access road, and we'll just get up into the timber unit, and then we'll dive off into the woods and start taking some measurements.
Orcutt is a Republican and a forester by trade. He's taking me out to measure the width of tree trunks. In his hiking boots and rain gear, he looks pretty different from the way he did just a month ago in a suit on the floor of the House of Representatives.
If I have a big tree, I can just hook into it and just walk around the tree and it'll hold it in place. This tree is small enough that I can just reach around.
Most of the state's lawmakers work a day job for about 9 months of the year. One is a bison rancher. Others are lawyers. Some are small business owners. Washington has always had a part-time legislature. When this rule was created, many elected officials were farmers, so the short calendar allowed them to be back home in time to harvest their crops. There's only a couple farmers left, but the rule still stands.
I think the fact that we come and we do the legislative session, we get done, we go back into our communities, we go back to our homes, we go back to our jobs. That's what keeps us grounded and it helps us remember why we're there in the first place.
Washington's not unusual. Most state legislatures meet part-time too. In odd-numbered years, Washington's session is 105 days. But in even-numbered years, like this one, it's even shorter, just 60 days long. And some people wonder if the state's issues are getting bigger than that time allows. This year, for example, lawmakers passed a historic income tax on high earners during the breakneck short session.
Last year I heard this was the most brutal session ever, and this year I heard that again. Every session is going to be the most brutal session ever, and that's really going to wear people down and make them think, gosh, why are we doing this to ourselves? There's got to be a better way.
That's Andrew Villeneuve, founder of the Northwest Progressive Institute, a left-leaning think tank. He says legislators should be full-time if they're going to do this job right.
It's quaint to think that you have a part-time legislature. So even if we want to think of our legislature as that, it's just not that. Legislators are constantly being asked to go to things during the interim. And so they don't really get a break from legislating.
Right now, lawmakers who want a longer session would have to amend the state's constitution. Villeneuve's group proposed an easier way this year, but it stalled in committee. Other recent attempts haven't gone anywhere either. Democrat Bob Hasagawa tried last year with a bill of his own. He says he often feels too rushed to make big policy decisions.
Without the time to critically analyze each piece of legislation that we're voting on, we absolutely do not have time to think about the future of what should Washington look like.
Hasagawa was a commercial trucker when he got elected to represent Renton and Tukwila. He says he couldn't do both jobs, but at least he has a pension to supplement his part-time income.
You pretty much have to take a vow of poverty to do this job unless you are independently wealthy or carried by some corporation that's willing to give you as much time off as you need.
Sean Scott is a Democrat who represents part of Seattle. After he was elected 2 years ago, he struggled to balance his job at an environmental justice organization. But so far, he's managed to keep it.
And my thing is, if you don't feel that there's enough time in the state legislative session or you don't feel like it pays enough, then maybe it's time to step aside for somebody who actually does have the resources to make the most of the position.
Still, there's momentum for more flexibility in the length of the legislative session. The issue will probably surface again next year, if there's time. In Olympia, I'm Sarah Mises-Tan.
And finally, a story about a traditional whale hunt for Washington's Makah tribe. The tribe got a federal waiver to revive its traditional hunt of gray whales in 2024, so it seemed like getting a whaling permit would be little more than a formality. But for more than a year now, the tribe's permit application has gone unanswered, but the Makahs say they're doing what they can to get ready to hunt as soon as this summer. KNKX environment reporter Bellamy Palethorpe has the story from Nia Bay.
Southwest of town in Nia Bay, Daniel Green stands in a grassy clearing on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. There's a reconstructed longhouse here with a painting of a gray whale on its side. Green is from a Makah whaling family. He wanted me to know that we're in what was once one of the oldest of 5 original Makah villages, carbon dated at nearly 4,000 years old. It's called Wayach Village.
Yeah, this is where my great-grandfather was born, in one of our longhouses, Quashkli. And there was 4 longhouses that were right in this area that were standing out. There's a lot more back then, but this is where my family is from.
He says this is where the most important Makah stories take place of how whaling first began. Green says from the bluffs here, you can see the whales migrating past by the hundreds. He says whale bones are built into the foundations of the houses. He remembers clearing the land near a drainage area when he was a young man in his 20s.
Yeah, just pulling sticker bushes out, whale bones rolling out of the sticker bushes. Pretty darn cool. And they're heavy, dense bones, so they're really old, bigger whales.
About 10 miles to the south is where the last whale was taken by the tribe in an officially permitted hunt in 1999. Green trained with that last whaling crew, but he was just a teenager, too young to actually hunt, and the tribe was ordered to stop in 2002. Now 44 with 7 children, he says he might be too old, but he's been preparing physically and spiritually along with others in the tribe who come from whaling families.
To actually fill in that missing piece, to actually go out and do the hunt that you get taught about is, like the culmination of everything.
Green is vice chair of the Makah Whaling Commission. He says they're now hoping to resume the hunt in July. I spoke with a handful of others. Every one of them wanted the world to know it's time. They're ready. Christopher Martinez is the secretary of the Whaling Commission and chief of staff for the Makah Tribal Council.
Their folks are training. They're in the water. They're doing their trainings. They're pulling in the canoe and, practicing and preparing for everything that they need to do. And I don't see any real challenge for the tribe and for the whalers other than, not being able to actually go hunt.
They submitted a permit application last March for 2 hunting seasons from July to October in 2025 and 2027. Federal regulators put it out for public comment, but then never responded and allowed the first hunting season the tribe had applied for to pass.
It's been very frustrating. The tribe's worked, very hard over the last couple decades to make sure that every piece of paper and every environmental impact statement and every regulation has been met, and the tribe meets that criteria, and to still have a holdup after doing everything on our part is really infuriating to the tribe.
Now Martinez says they've submitted a new request to amend their permit application so they could start the hunt this summer instead of waiting until 2027. In the wood shop at Nia Bay High School, students chip away at pieces of yellow cedar that they're carving into hollowed-out trays. Traditionally, these would be used for dipping whale and seal oil. Instructor Paul Green says this advanced class also makes clubs for fishing and seal hunting. And there's a small group of kids that loves to carve paddles.
The paddles are a big hit. Functional paddles, hard to come by these days. But here we have kids creating them every week to, use them in the canoe.
Canoes are stowed all around us, even hanging from the ceiling, both for racing and whaling. We're standing next to a red and black one that's 32 feet long.
My students are going to patch it, repair it, and someday it will probably go whaling.
He says working on the canoes fits in well with the cultural teachings that are integrated into most of the classes at this school, especially the annual Treaty Day teachings in January, when they learn about the Treaty of Nia Bay and the last whale hunt in '99. But reminders of Makah traditions happen all year long. Across the way, in language class, students practice their indigenous Makah language by singing. Seated in a semicircle at desks or on carpeted steps, they hunker down in their hoodies and take turns drumming along. This is the whale towing song.
is a song that is used when towing a whale in. And a lot of the time, after whalers would get a whale, it would be a time where songs would come to them, a time for prayer and a time for giving thanks.
Hazel Green is the language teacher. She says this song is often shared at big celebrations and public presentations, like Makah Days. And it's a reminder for her students of the importance of whaling at the very heart of Makah culture, and the reason why Makah leaders made sure to reserve these rights in the 1855 Treaty of Neah Bay.
These are rights that we're born with. You were born Makah. We have these rights. We're currently fighting for those rights, and when we finally can, we'll just be restoring what is rightfully ours.
Her son, Paul Green Jr., is a paraeducator for language and helps sing the songs here. He also traveled with a delegation in January to perform at the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian, where the agreement signed in Neah Bay was installed in a rotating exhibit of treaties. Theirs is the only one that explicitly promises the right to hunt whales. Green says he hopes the display might tip the scales in their favor as they wait for a whaling permit. He says it's not about a trophy hunt.
It's a way of life for us, and a lot of people don't like what they don't understand. And just understand that it's our way of life, and everything that we do about it, it's in a good way, and it's not with any intention of just killing for fun. It's taking a life and honoring it in the best way that we know how.
The tribe invited representatives of the Department of Commerce to their treaty ceremony at the museum in D.C. because right now they say the decision about their whale hunt is in the hands of Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Commerce did not respond to requests for comment, but media reports describe a backlog of contracts with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration piled up on Lutnick's desk. NOAA agreements for weather forecasting, marine fisheries, and coastal management, and the Makah's whaling permit all remain in limbo. I'm Bellamy Palethorpe reporting.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thank you to our generous donors for your support. Help us out by clicking the link in the show notes, following and rating the show on your favorite podcast app. Our production team includes Caroline Chamberlain-Gomez, Vaughn Jones, Andy Hurst, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.